Hello and welcome to 8 Bits in the Basement. So today what I want to do in a kind of a change from the norm is just to have a look at this first retro computer system that I bought back at Christmas of 2017. So it's the first one I bought. It's when I started collecting this kind of stuff. And I got this one on eBay as I get most of my stuff. And I said we'd just have a look at it and just see what it is. I was very lucky with it. There was absolutely nothing needed doing to it. Well, there was one little thing, but I kind of by accident it got repaired. But I'll go into that in a minute. Um, this is the Acorn Electron, which was made by Acorn as a little brother of the BBC Micro. So the BBC Micro was used by BBC in their computer program and in schools and all that kind of thing to try and bolster computer literacy in the UK back in the early 80s. And the Acorn Electron came along as a kind of a cheaper way into that, I suppose. It shares the same basic as the BBC Micro. So the idea was that if a child was learning BBC Basic on a micro in school, they could come home to their much cheaper Electron and they'd know how to use it the same way because it spoke the same language. And just looking at it generally overall, it's a plastic case. It seems to be pretty good quality plastic. It's got this sticker on it, which it's Acorn Electron little badge in. And the keyboard is nice. It's got a nice mechanical keyboard, and it's also got extra functionality on the side of the keys here that you can get by pressing another key and pressing one of these keys to give you the extra commands. So that's looking at the keyboard. On the side here, we've got 4 ports. So we've got our RF port, which goes out to the TV and tunes in and gives a fairly decent, actually for that type of connection, it's a very good picture. I was very impressed by it. There's also the composite, but the composite on this isn't color composite. It's black and white, and again I'll go into that in a minute. This guy here is red, green, blue. It's for a monitor. You could in fact make up a SCART cable to connect to a modern TV with that. And this is kind of the only input-output method at the moment on this Acorn is the tape port, so you can save and load programs from there. Flipping it around to the other side, you'll see that here I've got my AC input for power. There's no power switch or anything. It's plug it in, plug it out, and that takes 19 volts AC current. So on the back of it then we've got our little expansion port if you want. As this guy here, it's still got this plastic protector on it. So this allowed the Acorn to be expanded, and there was a number of expansions available for the Electron, but the two most popular were the Acorn Plus 1 and the Acorn Plus 3. So the Plus 1 expansion was a box that sat on the back of the Acorn here. Now this, I say Acorn, I mean Electron. On the back of the Electron here, and plugged in to this little port and was secured with 2 screws going into here. And it had 2 cartridge ports, and it also had a parallel port for a printer. And also integrated into it was a joystick port. So it was an analog joystick port, which meant that you could plug in paddles or joysticks into it, analog joysticks. And the second one, the expansion, the Plus 3 expansion, was again something like the box here. It was a little thinner on the back, but it was an L shape and it came right the way down here. And what it was a 3.5-inch disk drive. So it had all the electronics and disk controller and all that kind of stuff inside the top part here, and then the actual disk drive was in the sideways one. So you ended up with going kind of from a small system to a larger expanded system, but it came at a cost. It wasn't cheap. Like I say, just comparing this to the BBC Micro, there was a number of differences. The BBC Micro had 8 modes, 8 graphics modes, and most of the games and stuff that were written for the BBC Micro were using mode 7. But this only had 7 modes, so it went from 0 to 6. But it didn't have mode 7, so automatically there was an awful lot of games that were for the BBC Micro that weren't actually compatible with the Electron. And yeah, so we'll crack it open, we'll have a little look on the inside, and we'll see what makes it tick, we'll see what's inside of it. Now, so in order to open our Electron, it's quite easy. There's only 4 Phillips screws in the back of it. And now, so as always, when we open any of these old type computers, you always need to be careful, because you never know how the keyboard may be connected. And in this case, it's connected with a ribbon cable, a copper ribbon cable. So that's this guy right here. So we want to be careful removing that, because we don't actually want to damage it in any way. Now there we go. It's just a little pin, little female cable. And there we go, that's our keyboard in there, our keyboard PCB. Now, so I'll put that over to one side, and we can have a little look. Okay, so here's our Electron with the covering keyboard taken off. So here at the side we've got our power board, which takes in our 19 volts AC and passes it directly out without touching it in any way, apart from maybe smoothing it a bit with this large capacitor, out to the edge port, because the some of the expansion packs actually need that 19 volts AC in order to operate. The rest of the circuitry here on the board, what it does is it converts the 19 volts AC into plus 5 volt and minus 5 volt DC to power the rest of the board. Then here on the rest of the board we've got our memory chips, we've got some logic chips and some resistors, and we've also got our ULA, the uncommitted logic array, which does the job of many chips on the board. So the layout of the BBC Micro was taken and was all kind of brought right down, cost reduced into this one chip, an awful lot. So nearly 100 odd chips that were used in the BBC Micro were brought down and reduced into this one chip. Then here you've got the 6502, which is the processor, and here you've got your ROM chip. So that's pretty much the chips that are used on the board. It's a small chip count board. Here you've got your crystals that control timings and all that kind of stuff on the system. You've got your RF adapter here, your RF output, which takes the signal, the composite signal, and changes it into RF so that it can be picked up by a TV. You've got a speaker here as well, because much like the ZX Spectrum, it's got an internal speaker, so it doesn't actually output sound to a TV or anything. The sound is inside the computer and can't be lowered, or you can't turn up or down the volume. It's the sound is there, and that's what it is. Yeah, that's pretty much the inside of the computer. So the only problem that I had with this computer when I got it, I noticed that I couldn't actually get anything to load on it. When I tried to load stuff, I wouldn't find anything. You could start the tape playing, it would never find anything. And if I left the computer turned on for about 20 minutes, all of a sudden it started working perfectly, and it would work away fine, no problem whatsoever. And then if I turned it off and let it cool down and turned it on again the following day, for example, again you'd have to wait to 20 minutes. So what I did was I opened it up and I had a little look around, and the only thing I could do was remove the ULA. So I removed the ULA, I gave it a clean on a little piece of paper. I just rubbed its pins across a piece of paper just to try and clean them as best I could, and I popped it back in, and since everything has worked absolutely perfectly. And I think what the problem was that the ULA wasn't seated maybe as it should have been seated, and there was a slight miscontact, and when the computer was left on, it got warm, and because of a little bit of expansion as it got warm, I suppose the contact made contact and everything worked away fine after 20 minutes, and then when it was let cool down again, it uncontacted whatever and it wouldn't work anymore. So anyway, that was the only problem that I had with this computer. So I haven't changed any capacitors in it, I haven't done anything like that with it. apart from remove the ULA, give it a little cleaning and pop it back in. But I did very minimal with it and the computer works away perfectly. So there you go. So what I am going to do is I'll show you the computer working, but what I want to do, I want to try it with my little screen capture card. So the screen capture card that I have, it'll take an S video or it'll take a composite video signal, but as I said, this guy only has a black and white composite signal, but that can actually be rectified. There is a point called LK4 and it's right here. It's right here if I can get it in there. It's two little solder blobs just there on LK4, and if they're joined, all of a sudden you've got color composite video. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to short those together, and what I'll do is I'll put this all back together, bring it over to the TV there, and I'll show you it in operation. Now, so here I am in front of my Electron, and we're after doing the LK4 mod. So we should have color going out to our video capture device. So in order to turn it on, there's no power switch on the side of it. What we need to do is we need to plug this directly in. And if you listen, it gives a beep when it turns on. Now, if you don't have a monitor or anything and you've just got your Electron and a power cable, it's a way of testing it to see if it's working or not. And 99 times out of 100, if it gives that beep, you know that it's working. Now, the Electron is the same as many computers of the era. It has BASIC available to you right the second you start it up. So this actually has BBC BASIC, which is the same as the BASIC that was used on the BBC Micro. And it runs in pretty much the same way. We can do a Hello World program. So we do our 10 print Hello World, WRLD, and we will do our 20 go to 10. And now when we run it, it runs the same as you would expect. So yeah, that's pretty much what it does there. Now the difference with this is that there's one little thing added to this, because there's a break key up here in the top right hand corner, and what it does is it resets the entire computer. So it's a good thing to have, and at the same time its location isn't fantastic, because if we list our program here, we see it's listed the way it should be. Now imagine you had typed in thousands of lines of code and you're ready to save it to your cassette, and you hit break by accident, and boom, you're after resetting your Electron. You type list and all your code is gone. So you're kind of a little bit angry at yourself and the Electron. They added one little command to this BASIC that I haven't seen in other versions of BASIC. If you type old, it will bring back the code that was there originally, and you can save it to your cassette and all the rest. So that's one little added bonus with this version of BASIC. Okay, so now in order to load a program on the Electron, what we do is we use the chain command. So chain is what it tells the computer to do, really, is to search for a file and to load it, and then search for another file and load that, and then search for another file and load that. So you've got a whole chain of programs and it'll load one after the other. So we can type chain followed by 2 inverted commas and set it searching, or we can use the keyboard shortcut. So if we press the caps lock key, which is also the function key, and K, that'll give us the chain command, and then our 2 inverted commas, we press enter and we press play on our tape or whatever it is. So I'm using my little Maxduino, which is a little Arduino based WAV player type thing. What it does is it takes CAS files or TZX files or all kinds of different files, and it will convert them into WAV files that can be played across the computers and all the rest. So I can store all kinds of CAS files and all that kind of thing on a little SD card and plug it into this device, and then I can play them back to whichever computer I'm using. So it's a handy little thing. But you'll notice with this that it actually clocks up in hexadecimal. So it'll go from 0 and it'll go up to 9, and then it goes 0A, 0B, 0C, D, E, F, and then it goes to 10. And then it'll carry on again with the 11, 12 bar. and that's the way it counts up. But the nice thing about this is that as it's loading, you can actually see that it's doing something. It's not like with some of the other systems where you wonder, is there anything actually happening, you know. This will always display something on screen and show you that that it's working, that it's receiving data, and that it's processing it. So it's a nice little thing. It's a nice little thing that. So yeah, so that's the Electron. Just speaking about the Electron in general, actually, if you want to know what I think of it as such, I think it's a good computer. It was an excellent computer for the time, and it was actually one of the best selling 8-bit computers in the UK for a short time. But today, in collecting and using computers, I find that while it's a great computer, if you wanted, for example, a computer that you could learn BASIC on, if you wanted just to write programs in BASIC, teach yourself BASIC and all the rest, it's probably the best to get. They're still cheap enough. The keyboard is excellent quality. The version of BASIC on it is arguably the best version of BASIC that was ever available on an 8-bit computer. And yeah, it's a great computer to learn that on. Game wise and using wise, the whole time, the letdown of it is that there's no easy way to plug a joystick into it. You'd need to buy the +1 add-on, or you'd need to make up something in order to connect the joystick to it. The other side of it is that it's very slow to load cassettes. The baud rate, even when it's set high on this little Arduino guy, it takes forever to load a game on it. There are, of course, SD readers available for it now that are like little SD cards that'll plug into the back, and it'll read it like a disc, and that allows for much faster loading and all the rest. So there is that as an option, I suppose, if you were into it. But for me, it's a great little computer. I appreciate it. It has its place in this little collection of computers I have, but it wouldn't be my favorite go-to, if I'm to be honest. But here we are anyway. This is Jet Set Willy after loading up, and here we go. So we'll have a little look and see what it's like on this. There should be a key to jump, if I could find it. I don't want to press breaker to reset everything on me. Okay, I'll see if there's a jump key here somewhere. Here we go. There we are. Okay. So there's Jet Set Willy anyway. As you can see, we got color working on our through our composite connector. But yeah, that's the little Electron, and there's Jet Set Willy and it running on it, and oh, we're dead. And yeah, that's that. So like I said, with the brake key, if you press it by accident, boom, and you're out. And if you get the bright idea of trying to list programs not there, so you say, oh, I'll type all the, no, you got a bad program, that ain't gonna work. So there you go, that's the Electron. That's my take on it. And if you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, and maybe subscribe, because I've got plenty of other little computers that I'll do little videos like this on, and we'll have a look at those. And look, if you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down, and sure, we'll deal with that as well. So look, thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon. Bye bye.